Welcome to Be Famous. Today we're going to talk a lot about money and who doesn't like money. So we have with us a finfluencer or a financial influencer who actually went from 0 to 1 million followers within a year. And if you thought that was just luck by chance, he repeated that when in the second year he hit 2 million followers. So welcome Sharan Hegde, who all of you probably know as Finance with Sharan.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for that introduction.
In his previous avatar, Sharan was a consultant telling companies how to make money. He's flipped the hat and now he's talking to consumers about how they make money. So Sharan, can you take us through that journey? How did this come about?
Right. So I began my consulting career almost 5 years back. And obviously, nobody grows up thinking that they want to be a consultant or a management consultant. It is something that you discover as you go through life. I was in midway of my engineering. I was doing mechanical engineering. Most people think that I have a finance degree. So that's why I know about everything related to tax, insurance, or investing. But the reality is I am a mechanical engineer. And then halfway through engineering, I realized that maybe I want to do something else. Maybe I don't want to be, just working on creating CAD models or, engine components, even though I was doing all of that as a college kid. But then midway, I realized that maybe I like to work with teams. Maybe I want to work with, improving the profitability of a company. And that's when obviously the MBA bug bit me. But obviously MBA is a very difficult game to crack in India. Gave the IIM exams, did not get in. And that's when I realized, okay, now let's try to get into foreign MBA colleges. And the best careers to kind of make that happen is to get into consulting. And that's how I kind of, want to get into management consulting. Tried my best to get into the MBB firms, which are like the top tier consulting. Did not get in. And luckily, some consulting firms came to my college as well. So I got in there. I had a great time for 2 years, surrounded by some of the best minds in the industry. Was working with the IIM grads, the college that I could not get into. So I was really thrilled to be working with the students who graduated from that college. Had a great time working with, I was sitting next to the CEO of a company where they were, the CEO of a company who is responsible for dealing in crores of rupees, right? That's not something that we usually talk in our day-to-day lives, right? So being on the same room of a CEO and, helping them define the vision of the next 3 to 4 years of their company. And that was definitely, a dream come true for me. So that was a great experience working with them.
So from crores of rupees to, if I should say, crores of followers, how has that journey been?
It's not crores of followers yet.
Yeah, but I'm sure that's somewhere in the back of your mind.
Right. So I think it's a pleasant shift because I think it boils down to what you feel about what you do at work, right? Everybody likes to feel like we're adding value to the world, right? And when we're working at consulting, the value that the joy that you derive from your work is that, okay, I helped this company scale from 100 crores to 150 crores. I helped this company save X crores of rupees in cost, and I helped them, improve their profitability for this year. But that's one sort of joy, right? Making rich people become richer. But now, on the other end of the spectrum, now that I work with now that I help, the everyday common man how to manage their money, and when I hear messages and, emails from people saying how I help them get out of debt, how I help them invest their money, and now they have a clear-cut path as to how they should manage their money, and until now they didn't. Now this could be anybody, from as little as a 22-year-old kid who is just starting to work to as old as, let's say, a mid-30s guy who is making lakhs of money as a software engineer but had never had the systems in place to save money. So getting messages like this obviously is another sort of feeling, right? It's immeasurable, right? It definitely overpowers the satisfaction that I used to get in our corporate job.
So they say that engineering is serious business. Where did you discover the funny side of yours, considering that you're now blending humor with finance?
Right, that's a good question because many people are actually surprised to see what I'm doing today, right? Most people would have assumed that, I would probably be a scientist by now, right? Or I should probably be, working at a big bank as an investment banker, wearing suit and no nonsense guy, getting right to the point, poker face, not cracking a lot of jokes. So I think I've surprised myself as well on what I'm currently doing, combining humor with finance. I was not in any acting club in college. Most people think that now that I do these skits, I was probably this cool kid in college who was part of everything, right? Dance club, acting club. I was none of that. I wish I was, right? Because those are the people who get all the girls, right? I was not any of that. I was this boring kid who used to go to this garage in college where we used to make Formula One race cars, right? That's the kind of person I was. Nobody knew me in college. But I think what happened is I've sort of brought my unique personality. So I'm a Mangalorean. I was brought up there. Then I lived for like about 5-6 years in Bangalore. So that unique combination of the way we speak, I think it kind of translated into my content creation as well, right? So I was like one of the first one to start saying, bro, what's up and all of that. Right? Nobody used to say that on Instagram, video format.
Especially
right?
in the finance genre.
Especially in the finance genre. So I think that was very refreshing for people, and everybody knew what Bangalore accent sounds like, but they never saw it in mainstream media. Right, it is mostly the North Indian content which is sort of popularized. So I think this was a breath of fresh air for people, and almost everybody has a Bangalorean friend. So it sort of resonated with them, it clicked with them, and I think that's sort of caught on. And yeah, it was just being me actually, right? It's just me how I am with my close friends. Maybe not on a public platform, but I kind of forced myself to be the true version of me. And then I think as you get more and more comfortable, the truest version of you comes out. And I think that's the mark of a true content creator. When your truest version comes out, maybe slightly exaggerated, not always like that, but yeah, when the truest version of you comes out, I think that's when things start getting really interesting in the content creation game.
Okay, now diving into the game of enhancing your follower base, how did that game start? Was naming the handle the key to that success? Because I see that finance was the first word there.
Right.
Was there a thought behind it, or it just happened?
I would say it was completely random, right? It was actually, I still remember I was in a meeting. I was working, right? I was doing both consulting and content creation side by side for almost a year. So I was in a meeting and I had told my sister, I actually joined Instagram in 2020.
Wow.
Right? I joined Instagram that just to post pictures of my Europe trip. So I did not even know how to create an account. I asked my sister to do it. So I was like, hey, you know what?
She must be younger for sure.
No, she's older.
Wow.
She's 2 years older to me, right? So I told her, you know what? I'm thinking of starting this finance page. I'm in a meeting right now. Why don't you take my phone and create an account for me? So she goes, she spends half an hour. She had some pictures of me. That picture is still there today, right? That's one random picture taken on a phone. So she puts that and then she comes to me, hey, everything is done. What do you want the name to be? I was thinking, I didn't want my name to be there, to be honest, right? I thought, why not like something like Aam Aadmi Finance? That's what I was thinking, right? So then my sister was like, I think your name should be there. She was the one who told me. Then I was like, okay, fine. I was in a meeting. I'm like, I just said, just to get done with it. Okay, finance with Sharan. Just put it off. It is not even thought out, that meticulously. Just say finance with Sharan and that will be the end of it. So that's the story behind the name. There's not much thought.
But if we build consultant logic into it, it's been like a perfect name, right? Because whenever somebody searches finance, your name is going to kind of pop up.
See, usually what happens is when somebody, let's say now that you've build a big personal brand, and if somebody recognizes you in public, they will remember your brand name, not your name. So I have friends who have not named a page after themselves. So when they recognize them, they'll be like, hey, you're that guy, right? You're the guy who comes in those videos, right? I mean, sometimes even I get it, you're the finance guy, right? But most of the time it's like, hey, finance with Sharan. So I think it was a good, if you retrospect it, I think it is a good decision to put my name along with it. It's good for the personal branding.
We've spoken to several influencers, and when we ask them, okay, what is the secret sauce that makes you go viral? They often tell us that, we just kind of play it by the heart. We do things that come naturally to us.
Right.
There's no code. But I know that when I'm talking to Sharan has actually come up with a formula to success. If you want to take videos viral, he has cracked the code. How did you do that? How did that process of discovery happen?
So I think if you had asked me the same question about a year back, I would have probably told you what other influencers are telling you, right? Be yourself, be consistent and all of that. But over the years of talking to people and also reading upon books about human psychology, I've come to realize that what I do can be broken down into a science. It's not that it just comes magically to me, right? And there are some reasons why I do the things. So obviously, when I did those things for the first time, I did not know why I was doing it. It was just trial and error. But then as I saw those patterns, I kept repeating them over and over again. And I think these are the reasons why it really works. I mean, I think it can be broken down into a few parameters. I'll discuss a few now.
Yeah.
One is something known as social currency, right? Why does something go viral? Something goes viral when a lot of people are sharing that with their friends. Why is somebody sharing your piece of content? Not because they like you necessarily. It is because they want to seem cool in front of their friends. And that is something that we call social currency. So if you can make your video, shareable among your friends, your video will most likely go viral. And now the secret to make something, the secret to encourage someone to share your content is to touch upon the cool factor. Now, how do you make something cool? For that, there's something known as inner remarkability. Now, for example, finance by itself is not cool, right? And that is why financial literacy is arguably, very low in India, because it's not something which appeals to everybody just like that.
And everybody is scared of math. Right?
Exactly. So, but if you combine it with something interesting, for example, I would combine it with, let's say, Harry Potter or a Batman. And that is nothing never done before. Nobody would have thought, okay, Harry Potter is going to be teaching me finance. Nobody would have thought that, right? So when you combine it with something interesting and out of the box, it immediately becomes cool and people love to share that. So that's number one. Second thing I would say is tapping into emotions. See, everybody knows that on Instagram, Instagram is ruled by stand-up comedians and, the dancers, right? Because we are all opening Instagram after a tiring day of work. We don't really want to put in a lot of effort to consume content. It needs to be, free flow of content.
And it needs to blend in with that atmosphere.
Exactly, right? You don't need to it needs to kind of make you feel like, okay, it gives you the dopamine rush.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, finance, I mean, I'm competing with all of these people, right? If I'm going on YouTube, if I'm typing something related to finance, I'm only shown finance videos, so I'm competing with finance creators. But I'm on Instagram. People are not typing finance, right? It just comes to them in their feed. So I'm competing with everybody, right? Before me, there's a stand-up comedian, and after me, there is a dancing video. So who are they going to watch? My boring finance video, or they're going to watch something which is going to make them laugh? So I figured, why not I incorporate some of those features into my video? I started off with dance, failed miserably. And then that's when I thought, okay, let me try humor. So then I incorporated humor into it. So coming back to that point, when I say emotions, humor, anger, and awe, these are the three emotions which causes virality. Whereas sorrow or disgust, these sort of emotions do not cause virality. I'm sure you would have seen these videos of NGOs promoting, asking you to donate money, right? They show those sad videos, but how often do you share those videos, right? It makes you sad.
True.
So you don't share those videos. But a stand-up comedian's videos, boom, you share it with everybody. But why do you share? Not because you love that stand-up comedian, because you want to make your friends laugh. If you make your friends laugh and they double tap it, they look at it, you'll feel like, okay, I did something for them.
That's validation for you.
That's validation for you. And that's what people don't get. Stand-up content creators, the way you grow is to make your audience feel validated by their friends, not to you. Right? If you think that they are doing it for you, you're wrong. They're doing it for themselves. Because at the end of the day, we're all thinking about how the world perceives us. So yeah, those are the two biggest factors for virality.
Hey, if I could ask you something about anger and finance, they only happen when you lose money, right? So that's an emotion that you would never bring into a finance video.
I've done that actually. So what happens is there's a lot of cases of scams happening in India. A lot of cases where financial institutions, I wouldn't say scam specifically, but a lot of cases where there are hidden charges, right? So the wording is incorrect, or the way they're marketing this product is incorrect. So I highlight those in my videos as well, right? And that makes people feel angry, Shit, I actually thought this is true, but now Sharan is telling me it's not true. So I tapped into their anger emotion. Now, because they're angry, they want to kind of spread it, right? They want to show it to their friends and family. For example, if their parents had told them something their entire life about some investment product, and now if I'm telling that, it was not true all along, they're angry. Now they're angry at their parents as well. Now they're going to show it to their parents. Mom, Dad, look, what you told me was not true. This is what's the truth. So that's also an important emotion
like
to tap
that fixed deposit content that you put out on Insta, right?
Right. That's something which everybody caught on to last year, right? Everybody wanted to bash upon fixed deposits. I wouldn't say it's entirely bad. I mean, there are use cases for fixed deposits, but I would more refer to the insurance products which are sold in our
Right.
country today. There are a lot of unnecessary products which are promoted as good investment products. So that is something that I strongly oppose to. So that's why I make a lot of content on that.
And have you ever tried to do a spoof on marketing of financial products
Right,
while
I do
diversifying?
that. I make those videos as well where I show exactly. So if you look at the marketing brochure of a particular product, the marketing brochure is designed in such a way that they sensationalize the returns. Now there are two kinds of returns. One is absolute returns, and other one is time adjusted returns. Now, most companies will not talk about time adjusted returns. What I mean by that is they will tell you that you give 1 lakh rupees for the next 10 years, and then 20 years later, I will give you, let's say, 40 lakhs back. Now, when you hear these numbers today, sitting today, I'm giving 1 lakh rupees and I'm giving 40 lakhs after a 20-year period of time. It sounds like a big number. But if you adjust it for time and inflation, those returns will probably be like 4 to 5%. And you will not see those numbers in the brochure. You will see the 40 lakh number. Now, obviously, the marketing team is not going to write 4 to 5%. I mean, that's not their job. Their job is to sensationalize it and make you get into the product. But my job is to kind of show the true picture, right? Because people are not inherently wired to look at numbers that way, right? They look at the big number, they subtract what they put, and they're like, okay, I got so much rupees profit. But it's not so simple when it comes to investing. You need to look at time-adjusted returns.
Okay, there's also a lot of talk about how there is going to be a kind of a censoring of finfluencers
Right.
in this space. What are your views on that? Are there a lot of people who are masquerading as financial influencers, but they're actually agents in disguise? Are they kind of contaminating the pool?
So I would say the term finfluencers is very broad, and financial education also is very, very broad. So what you're referring to right now, censoring finfluencers, that is being brought about by the SEBI.
Yeah.
And SEBI regulates the markets in India.
Yeah.
So what is happening is people who are not licensed are also promoting certain stocks or certain IPOs and asking people to invest their money in those products or asking people to invest in a particular name of a mutual fund. Now that is not allowed as per SEBI. But if you see, I would say more than 90% of influencers in India do not even do that, right? Because if you don't have the license to promote a particular product, you're not supposed to talk about it. You're supposed to talk about it from a scheme level. There are so many things to talk about in finance. Everybody wants to talk about which is the hot stock, which is the trending stock right now. But what about tax planning? What about insurance planning? What about knowing how to do asset allocation? What about how to do goal planning? People think that, okay, these are like, the less important topics, but they are the most important stuff. But everybody wants to know what is the next upcoming stock. So that is why some influencers will get into these kind of topics because they know that these kind of topics will sell. Everybody wants spoon-fed information, right? Nobody wants to know how to an end-to-end plan or how to do it by themselves. Everybody wants to be spoon-fed the information as, okay, put so much in this stock, so put so much in that stock. So a few influencers are doing that, and that is why SEBI has come into the picture, which is a welcome move because it regulates the market, and it also shows that SEBI is now taking influencers seriously, and it has recognized us as a significant distribution channel for financial education in India.
Okay, and who's your go-to financial influencer globally?
Globally, I don't think there is anybody bigger on a global level than in India. There are several big influencers in India itself. I mean, I personally was inspired by finance influencers such as Pranjal Kamra and C.A. Rachna Ranade. I mean, I stand on their shoulders today, right? I learned everything from them. I mean, or at least my interest started from them, right? Because everybody faces the same problem, right? If you want to learn, you need to read those complicated textbooks, or you need to, attend, get a fancy degree. But I think the past 10 years, these influencers on YouTube have caused some revolutionary change because I can just open a 10-minute video and learn about all of these stuff in a very simple format, right? With infographics and animations and all of that. So I look up to them even now, and now they are my good friends as well. So it was, I look up to them, and they are my inspiration for starting all of these things.
Amazing. Okay, an engineer who's talking money.
Right.
How do you kind of bring that believability that whatever Sharan is saying,
Right.
I can follow it blindly?
Right. So that worked in my favor because people assumed that I was a CA or a CFA. They did not know that until I told it to them. But by the time I told everybody, I mean, it's not that I was hiding anything, right? I just didn't tell that, I am a CA or a CFA. I was just talking about it and I was making sense, right? Obviously, if you're saying false stuff, people will eventually catch on to you. But when you're getting millions and millions of views, and then people are actually saying that, okay, this information actually helped me with what I'm facing right now. Okay, this is exactly what I needed right now. So that trust was built over several months and months and months. And then finally, when I did an interview like this and I told that I'm a mechanical engineer, people couldn't believe it. And that served two purposes. One is that, okay, they were shocked that, okay, he is just an engineer and he's doing about all this. Second thing is that they were more confident about themselves. Because until then, most people used to think that if they don't have a finance degree, they had no business dealing with money. They had no business investing their money. They thought that they needed an expert. Like if we fall sick, we know that we have to go to a doctor, right? We're not going to Google, even though we Google stuff and write our symptoms and find out what's wrong with it, that's an incorrect thing to do. So people assume the same about investing as well. They thought that they needed a finance expert to kind of guide them on how to do it. So this, for the first time ever, when they realized that, I'm a mechanical engineer and I'm doing all of these stuff, they realized that, okay, maybe it's not that hard. Maybe I don't need to have a fancy finance degree to learn how to invest my money. I can do it by myself as well. He's doing it and he's explaining it in such an easy way. Maybe I should do it as well. I think that's the impact that has happened.
Okay, one trend that I'm seeing, okay, in your content is that you get to the meat of the matter pretty late into the...
Right.
Now, is that a conscious decision? Because we are often told again that, bring your punchline right in the first 3 seconds or you will just have viewers opting out and so on.
That is definitely a conscious decision, especially for short form content. Because like I said, it goes back to the earlier argument that nobody wants to learn about the 3 important factors to know when purchasing insurance. When there's a stand-up comedian who's going to knock your socks off with the 3 amazing jokes, right? Who wants to hear about the best practices that you need to know when purchasing insurance? So I usually start off, I give a build-up to my videos. I usually start off with a joke, or I start off with a very preposterous thing that a character or a protagonist is doing. Or I might just show Harry Potter, right? And who has no business talking about finance. So I get the audience's attention. So the thing with short form content is if you can make your audience watch you for the first 3 to 5 seconds, there is a very high likelihood that they will watch the rest of the video. But if you cannot even make them watch 1 second, then what's the point if you talk about all the interesting stuff later on, right? You're not going to reach the maximum number of people. So it's a very conscious decision that the first 5 seconds will have nothing to do with finance in most cases, unless the topic is super catchy. But in most cases, how to save taxes is a good topic. But let us say how to save on opening an account, how to save on minimum account balance, or how to save on credit card, travel hacks. All these things are probably not something which is at the top of their mind. Retiring early is something which is at the top of their mind. So that I will start off immediately, right?
Which is why that video of how to make money in your 20s really caught on like wildfire.
Right. People want to know these sort of things. So I will start out that with the hook. But if it's a very boring topic, then I will probably build a story building. That's another thing about virality, right? Storytelling is very important and it's a very underrated skill today, right?
Like that family story that you built where, the lady in the house is acquiring all the gadgets. And so where I think you just hit a topic which is very relatable, right? So, but, okay, so tell me something. There, on one hand, you're creating content that, appeals to people in their 20s. And in a topic which I just mentioned, you're creating content which appeals probably to people in their 30s and maybe even 40s because people are having kids much later in their life these days. How do you kind of arrive at that sweet spot in terms of your audience?
I will look at my demographics, right? And what I noticed is that earlier people would assume that, on Instagram, it's usually the younger crowd, 18 to 24. But I'll tell you what, surprisingly, my audience is much older. I would say 55 to 60% of my audience is from the 24 to 35 age group, right? These are the working class people, thinking about starting a family, thinking about buying a house. So that is the major chunk of my audience. Now, if you look at most content creators on Instagram, majority of their chunk is the 18 to 24, right? So I have a much older audience.
And a much more richer audience.
I would say so, yeah.
So does that make you the darling of the brands?
To some extent, yes. I mean, brands do look at demographic data as well. So looking at that age group, I have a very good idea of who is watching my content. Then I also know which geographies they belong to. So I know that, okay, this kind of content will work because this is the kind of audience that I have. So, and that is one thing. Another thing is, you might say that, okay, if 18 to 30, 24 to 35 is the age group which is maximum, then I'll probably never talk about content which is meant for senior citizens. That is what I thought. But then I was thinking about it in the wrong way, because people are also, in India especially, people in the 20s and 30s are managing the money of their parents as well. So it's very important for them to know how to manage the money of senior citizens, how to take advantage of the benefits that senior citizens get when it comes to investing. So I started creating content on that as well. And that also really blew up.
Such an interesting point. Yeah,
right. And then eventually what happened is my audience's parents and grandparents started following me. So if I say something like, which is not colloquially right, then people will be like, Sharan, bro, what, dude? I asked my mom and dad to follow you and you're saying all of these sort of things, right? So I mean, it's funny for the younger age group, but maybe for an older age group, maybe it becomes a little bit,
So have you mellowed down?
I have mellowed down.
Has the 2 million followers, Sharan, a much more softer version of what it was?
I need to be very, very careful, right? I need to run everything by my sister. Is this joke fine? Is this joke politically correct? Right? Am I crossing the line here? Because now I need to cater to not just people of my age group, but also their parents and grandparents who might not take it lightly, right? So that's the thing.
What's the one financial tip that you wish you had not given out to your audience?
No, every topic that I've talked about, I'm proud of sharing that. I'm talking with respect to the story building aspect of it, the joke aspect of it. Yeah. Right? The joke which kind of surrounds your content,
to the story.
Which led to the story, that sometimes might be offensive to people, right?
So which would be one of those?
I did a recent, last year, I had done a video about spoof on CID.
Oh, okay.
Right? And that was one of the first times I started speaking in Hindi. So A, people did not like that I was speaking in Hindi because my accent is not that great. And B, it was a little bit, that main character in CID, right?
You don't break doors in finance.
Yeah, he does this action, right? Yeah. So I think I said something in Hindi for that character, and people did not, obviously 70-80% of them loved it, but the 20% who took offense, they made a big deal out of it. So I need to be very careful with what I say. I mean, that's when I realized that I have a huge audience now. Every joke probably will not fly. And I started thinking of myself like a stand-up comedian, but no, right? People still look at me with the lens of professionalism. So I need to have a good balance of professionalism and, humor.
What's been the biggest validation that you've got for your content till date?
Right, that would have to be about 5 months back when I was in Bangalore sitting at a Starbucks. This guy, he comes up to me and so this time it was a very different kind of an experience, because he comes to me, usually people just say, hey, you're that finance guy, can I take a picture? He did none of that. He said, you got me out of credit card debt, right? I was in a huge, I was having a huge loan which I was not able to repay. I saw a video of yours which told us how to do the credit card balance transfer. That significantly helped me reduce my EMIs. And today I have paid off my credit card loans. And he was sporting this big gold chain. He did not talk about that. And I was like, is this gold chain that you bought after coming out of it? He's like, yeah, it is. And now he is very well off, right? So that was I still remember that incident, right? That is like fresh in my memory. That's when I realized, I want to feel like this every time, okay, the likes and the comments on Instagram, fine, that's there. But one incident like this is, more than, thousands of those likes and millions of those likes and comments. So that is when I decided to go deep dive into educating people on a much more deeper level. And that's when I started launching my course, right? I now have a personal finance course, which almost 10,000 people have taken. Yeah. So, getting those emails from people that, wow, I've never been taught finance like this. The tools that you share is so easy to use, right? So that gives me more joy than the likes and the comments and, the adulation.
So the strength that you bring to the table is basically uncomplicating finance, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So now that there is a masterclass happening, there is a book that's going to be launched pretty soon.
Right.
all the diversifications seem to be in the area of money itself, right?
Right.
So do you ever get approached by non-financial brands to do content?
Yes, I do. I do get approached, but
So, can you share an example, even if you don't want to mention the brand? It's okay.
I have actually been approached and I worked with them as well. I have a rule, right? If I use that brand's product or if I'm likely to use that brand's product, I will promote it.
Is it?
Yeah. So
Okay.
financial products, that's easy because I use every damn one of them, right? Every damn single one of them, I'm using them. Because I'm a finance evangelist, I'll try out everything that's available.
True.
So if they approach to me, it's very easy to work with them if I like them. But when it comes to non-finance brands, I only worked with one. It's an apparel brand, and I was wearing their clothes long before I even shot my first video. So it was very easy for me to work with them, and I was their ambassador for a few months. And I have a wardrobe filled with all their clothes right now. All my house clothes is their brand.
Okay, and when it comes to financial brands, the minute there is a hint of, Sharan is trying to promote this brand, do you
Right.
see the view through rates dropping down constantly?
Yes and no. If you present it in a way which is unbiased and which is genuinely talking about the benefits of the brand, then people will actually welcome it. And in finance, that's an advantage. Because let's say I was a stand-up comedian, let's say, which I'm not sharing anything related to finance. And all of a sudden, if I'm talking about a finance brand, then people know that, okay, this is not his usual content. He's doing this just because he's getting money from it. So he has no business talking about it. So he's talking about it. So he's doing it for the purpose of money. But in my case, because I'm anyway talking about finance day in and day out, now eventually if I do integrate a finance product along with this financial knowledge, people don't really mind because they're like, he's anyway talking about these benefits. Now he's giving us an option as well to kind of implement what he's talking about. And this is the way to do it. So most people welcome it, right? Okay, Sharan has been teaching me all of these things. I had not known how to implement it. Now he is introducing a product which will help me implement it. So people welcome it, right? So that's the advantage that I and other finance influencers have, that we do not get a lot of flack for promoting financial products because they know that we know what we're talking about.
And since we're coming to the end of this conversation, if I can ask you crisp, short questions, one financial tip that you would like to leave for our audience?
Don't buy a home until you're in your 40s. That's the biggest financial tip I would say. Especially today when house prices have skyrocketed, and assuming that you are all in metro cities, Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, do not buy a home. Do not get into family pressure just because you're getting married. First become liquid financially independent, meaning have a certain amount of money saved which will allow you to reinvest and the dividends of that will pay for your expenses, and then think about buying a home.
What is the wisest financial decision that you ever took? Getting out of consulting?
No. I think wisest financial decision, I would say not buying an expensive car. I still don't own a car, right? I am thinking of buying one now, but I think it is very easy to get swayed, right? People are like,
Is it a Bangalore trait inspired by the Premjis and the Narayan Murthis?
for buying a car.
Not buying expensive cars.
I'm not aware of what they believe in, but what I believe is that, most people buy an expensive car as an external display of wealth, right? Because car and house is the two things which are shown to everybody. My bank balance, you don't know. But if you know my car, you have an idea that, okay, maybe he's making some certain amount of money. I don't want to get into that game, right? Even if I ask today any of my friends, okay, I'm thinking of buying a car. They're like, okay, so BMW or Audi? That's the question I get. And I don't want to go there, right? Because the purpose is to get from point A to point B, right? So why do I need to spend 30, 40 lakhs extra just to do the same thing?
And an asset which is going to lie in the garage for 90% of its life.
Exactly. And for the kind of life I'm living, I'm 90% of the time I'm staying at home. Maybe once a week I'm going out. So why do I need to have an expensive car? So I still believe in that, and I still haven't made a big car purchase.
So it's sweat your assets better. That's the lesson from this, right?
Keep money in assets which pay you back.
Which pay you back.
Not draw out more money from me. Because the BMW will again cost me huge maintenance costs. Right? It's just going to make me more poorer and poorer, just so that other people think that I'm rich. Why would I want to do that?
Okay, what's the silliest financial decision you ever made?
I fortunately don't have that sort of a story. I started when I was 19 investing. And actually, I'll tell you, now I know the silliest one. And I wouldn't blame myself for it because I was really young. Because when as a kid, my parents used to give me pocket money, and I used to collect all of that money in this money belt, the ones that you wear when you go traveling abroad. Right. So by the time I hit 19, I had saved about 50,000 rupees in cash.
Wow.
Right. It included my grandmother's money as well on my birthdays. My parents never gave me that sort of cash. Maybe 1,000 rupees max. My grandmother used to give me like 10,000 rupees just like that.
Wow.
Right. My mom used to tell me, why don't you give the money to me? I'll invest it. But I did not trust my mom. So I thought I'll only keep it by myself. I think that was silly. Right. I should have invested it and given it to my mom right then and there. Right. So, but then 19 onwards, instead of buying an iPhone, I invested it. The iPhone was 50,000 rupees back then. Any rational kid would have done that. I was thinking whether I should buy a telescope or should I do something else. That is what I was thinking. But then eventually I think I made the right decision of investing that money.
What was your first investment?
My first investment is very simple here. It's a simple index mutual fund. It's very simple. Most people want to hear stories of this stock becoming X and 1000X. It's very simple. It's an index mutual fund. And then eventually I got into Bitcoins. There I burnt my hands a little bit. I think that would be probably another silly mistake. It was about, it's not that Bitcoin is a bad investment. I still invest in Bitcoin. It's that the mentality with which I went with, and which is what most Indians are doing today when it comes to crypto, is quick money. I invest today and maybe 2 months later, I better see 2x, otherwise this investment is bad. So they're buying and selling and buying and selling, and I lost half my money. As a third year college student, I had invested 15,000 rupees and I was getting a 5,000 rupees monthly pocket money from my parents to take care of everything, right? So that was 3 months of my pocket money gone just like that, right? So that was a big blow to me, right? So then I had to learn to live on 2,000, 3,000 rupees per month. So that was a difficult time.
Finally, if you had to meet Warren Buffett, what would be the one thing that you would ask him or tell him?
If I had to meet Warren Buffett, I would ask him, how does he stay so fit even after eating junk food all day long? That's what I would ask him.
Brilliant. So on that note, thank you very much, Sharan Hegde, for joining us at Be Famous. It's been such a wonderful and enlightening chat.
Thank you for having me.